Hi guys, Lauren from The Mineral Body here, just responding to a good question. How does one become deficient in the minerals? To put it simply, farming practices. Farming practices is the main reason that most people are deficient in the biochemic minerals. So gone are the days where most everybody is growing their own fruit and veg, harvesting their own chickens, and harvesting their own meat animals. Nowadays, we mass produce everything and we streamline everything for cost effectiveness. The priorities of our current civilization is on profit, not at all on quality, and absolutely not on humanity or even just doing things correctly or well. So, when we have a system entirely based around pumping out massive amounts of bare minimum quality products, the results are we have food that looks perfect. It looks just like food. That apple, it looks just like an apple. But if you were to have its nutrients, its mineral content analyzed, the ratios have been completely disrupted. There's nothing natural about how these plants are being grown. Through science and through human intelligence, human ingenuity, we've managed to find out the absolute bare minimum that we need to give our food products to get them to the end result, to a saleable result. So, we have an epidemic of empty foods. Foods that they're not empty, but they're overloaded in the wrong things, the wrong minerals. And we've done this in a blanket way that affects everything broadly. So all of the foods have the same kind of ratio disruptions. And so what we're seeing is now all of the humans who consume these foods are also displaying the same ratio disruptions. And then we have to look at, so the meat products, the animal products, the use of hormones, and unfortunately, hormones don't break down as quickly as some of these other elements. So the hormones stay in the cow, and then they stay in the meat, and then they stay in us. We know about this. We're seeing problems with the waterways. The amount of people on medications and hormone medications, all of these are getting into the waterways through the toilet systems, and we sanitize the toilet water, but we can't get rid of the hormones. And this has been causing all sorts of disruptions in nature and in people. So there's another element where we're getting disruption to the body systems, where we're getting ratios getting thrown out of whack. Then we go to the toxins, the exposure to toxins in this day and age. Go to the beauty aisle in Coles. My lord, the toxins. What women put on their face as beauty products. And then we get to the air fragrances, the deodorants, the aluminium-based deodorants, my lord. Got bug sprays, got the pesticides. There are a heck of a lot of toxins that a human being is exposed to. Not to mention the last few generations, the rise of plastics in everything, plastics wrappers on everything. We've never had so much exposure to plastics, and we're starting to see the generational repercussions of this, because the BPAs in plastic, they mimic our native estrogen. So we're seeing absolute epidemics of estrogen dominance in the population. We can see the feminizing of men across the globe. And because, like I said, hormones stay in the tissue, it gets passed on, and it gets passed on generationally as well. So if the parent has not remedied this in themselves, then they pass that on to the infant. And now in this day and age, we have children who aren't sure about their own gender. That's a massive sign of copper toxicity, and copper is just hand in hand with estrogen. You cannot influence estrogen in the body without influencing the behavior of copper. And we have a global epidemic of gender dysphoria, multiple generations into the use of plastic. a substance we know mimics estrogen in the body, causes estrogen dominance, which causes copper toxicity, which causes gender dysphoria. So unfortunately, this isn't a fad that's coming at us from the outside. Unfortunately, this is a demand that is going to be kept being demanded by the public until we really look at addressing these underlying issues. I don't see that being an easily breachable topic. A few more symptoms of copper toxicity: really high emotional reactivity, very easy to send them into distress, into kind of manic emotional ups and downs. And I'm sure you can't speak to somebody in that manic state. There's no way to actually communicate once the kind of fear and stress is engaged. But for anybody not in that state, you can absorb that information and meditate on that. Extremely profound. So, there's all of these reasons why we have balances, ratios being thrown out in the body. One thing I didn't mention about the exposure to toxins. So what does a toxin demand on the body? So as soon as a toxin comes into the body, we've got the immune system sending out stress, the alarm system goes off, we need an immune response, we need certain specialized cells to come in and assist in rounding up and dealing with these elements. What the toxin is will influence what kind of response is emitted by the body. So the sentinel cells, the dendrites, the dendritic immune cells, these are mobile sentinel cells. The job of these cells is to find the toxin, identify it, and set out the correct message, the correct request for the immune cell that will best deal with that toxin, pathogen, whatever. So in this new day and age, every day we invent a new toxin, a new substance the body has never evolved to deal with, and we patent it and mass produce it and give it out to people to play with. The repercussions of this is when something non-native is ingested by the body, that is a toxin. If the body cannot use it, does not have an enzyme or receptor to uptake it and know what it is, then it's a toxin. It's something that needs to be purged, moved by the body, processed by the liver, kidneys, lymphatic system, the excretory systems. This demands, it demands energy, it demands all of the minerals involved with any of these functions. So just basic immune response will demand higher oxygen content from the body, so that's mineral number 3, potentially mineral number 6. It will demand increased lymphatic immune response, which will be a draw on potassium chloride hugely, but it's also going to broadly influence a lot of the other minerals too. And these toxin exposures are happening every single day, all day long, every day. Even if you're very mindful of your exposure to things, you might catch public transport and get a face full of somebody's aluminium-based deodorant can while on the bus. All of these things, we know about their effects. We know about the huge difference in the rate of Alzheimer's in people who live next to really heavy trafficked areas. But that's not a popular thing to talk about, so we don't much hear about it. So what else have we got? Another reason that human beings will be depleted. In this day and age, the amount of stresses that are put on our animal, on our organism, the meat monkey that you are, the animal that you evolved to be, it can only interpret stress in 2 different ways. It's famine stress, the stress of not enough, or it's predator stress. Something is directly threatening me. Either you've almost stepped on a snake and need the adrenaline to be able to move really quick, or you just heard the crunch of a tiger behind you. That's predator stress. So what this does to your organism is immediately sends you into overdrive. We've got the body emits cortisol. It emits these stress hormones that allow the body to do these superhuman feats so that you can avoid being killed in the moment. So this incredible adaptation that we have, which is meant to be called upon once in a blue moon when necessary to save our lives, this mechanism is now being engaged all day, every day for some people. Imagine you work in a busy office. Every time the phone goes off, you're going to be getting a small hit of that cortisol. When the boss pops around the corner, you're going to be getting a big hit of that cortisol. And this is a huge drain on the body. This is a huge drain. The second that stress hormone floods your body, we're pulling all of the blood away from digestion. There's no point digesting if you're about to run away from a tiger. We need that blood. So you've interrupted your digestive process. This is going to cause issues in a few hours. The stress hormones themselves, they're changing the way your brain works. They're changing the way the blood is supplied to the body. This is all having ramifications. And if this happens once in a day, no biggie. But if this is happening every hour, this is a problem. And it is a big drain on the minerals. And if you're not supplementing these minerals, you will have crash days. Absolutely. And if you continue to keep pushing, they're going to get worse until there's probably... You don't want to sustain that state of constant stress. Basically, every disease under the sun could be born from that kind of state. You don't want to continue that. So we've got stress depletion, we've got toxin depletion, we've got just the fact that the food is empty, and we've also got the fact that the food also comes with a lot more baggage than it used to. We used to harvest things straight out of nature, loaded with all of a broad range of nutrients and trace elements, whereas now we get empty food that's... The ratios are all broken, which puts stress on the body, and they're also full of pesticides, fungicides, and who knows what else. Oh, and number 5, GMO. Yes, genetically modified organisms. Genetically modified food that's not native to the body. It hasn't evolved to assimilate that. I'm sure that that's going to bring its whole own field of issues with it. So I suppose there's that to look at as well. But just from what we've outlined, I'm sure you can see there are many reasons why an average human being is going to be depleted in this society. So yeah, if you're still unsure about whether you may or may not be deficient in a certain mineral, see themineralbody.com, check out the symptoms page, and you yourself can run through a checklist on the 12 primary minerals. You can check the facial tells, tongue tells, emotional tells, and potential diseases that could come about in an organism lacking that mineral. You then have the choice to either supplement biochemically or what foods you can use to source those minerals and begin incorporating more of that into your diet. Alright guys, hope you've enjoyed that. Just a quick run through on some of the reasons you potentially could be deficient in one or more of the biochemic minerals. Okay, thanks. Bye.